They didn't work the longest hours. They didn't speak the most in meetings. They weren't the loudest, the flashiest, or the most charismatic person in the room. But they got promoted. Fast. You watched it happen. Quietly. Steadily. Almost like magic. But it wasn't magic. It was method. Because the truth is, the people who rise the fastest don't just work harder. They move differently. They see things most people ignore. They build invisible systems. They master habits no one teaches. And while the rest of the room is trying to impress, they're doing something far more powerful. They're making impact impossible to overlook. This isn't about luck. It's about leverage. Silent, strategic, repeatable leverage. And once you see what they're doing, you'll never see your work or your worth the same way again. 1. The unseen advantage. Everyone notices the person who gets promoted. Their name is announced in the meeting. Their LinkedIn post gathers hundreds of likes. People whisper, "How did they move up so fast?" But what no one talks about, what almost no one sees, are the habits that made it possible. Because the fastest rising professionals rarely shout. They don't campaign loudly or compete for attention. They practice silent habits, subtle, consistent behaviors that compound quietly until one day they're undeniable. This is not about working 14-hour days. This is not about being the loudest voice in the room. This is about the invisible skills, the unspoken rules that accelerate growth from the inside out. If you've ever looked around and wondered why some people seem to rise faster, this story is for you. We're going deep into the silent patterns of those who don't just survive at work. They rise. 2. They read the room before they speak in it. People who get promoted quickly understand this. Reading the room is more powerful than dominating it. In meetings, they observe before they interject. They notice who holds power, not by title, but by tone. They understand the politics without getting political. They learn how ideas move from whisper to reality. And when they do speak, it lands. Not because they're loud, but because they're accurate. They've studied the current, so when they swim, they don't splash. They move with force. This awareness, this quiet calibration, is a superpower. Most people are too busy trying to be seen. The ones who rise are busy seeing, watching, connecting dots, sensing when to lead and when to wait. And they always make others feel heard before asking to be heard themselves. 3. They stay ready, not busy. It's easy to fill your calendar. It's harder to fill your mind with clarity. Fast risers don't confuse motion with momentum. They say no to things that most people say yes to out of habit. They don't overextend just to appear helpful. They guard time to think, to prepare, to show up with solutions instead of stress. They're not always the first to respond, but when they do, it moves the project forward. They're not in every meeting, but the ones they attend, they shape. They build margin into their lives so they can pivot fast when opportunity calls. And because they aren't buried in busy work, they see chances others miss. They are not reactive. They are ready. 4. They practice upward empathy. Most people learn to manage down, delegating, organizing, guiding. But those who rise fast learn to manage up. And it starts with empathy. They ask themselves, what does my manager worry about? They study the pressure above them, not to please, but to partner. They don't just bring problems, they bring context, clarity, options. They speak the language of decision-making, and over time, they become someone a leader can trust, not just to follow orders, but to reduce complexity, to make the load lighter. Promotions don't go to the people who do the most. They go to the people who make others' jobs easier, especially the right people. 5. They signal reliability without saying a word. Some people promise they'll deliver. Others simply do. The ones who move up fast are the second kind. They build a quiet reputation. One email, one follow-up, one delivery at a time. No drama, no excuses, just results. Their calendars don't leak chaos. Their messages are brief but thoughtful. They hit deadlines. And when they can't, they communicate early. This silent habit creates trust, not just with managers but across teams. Others begin to say, if they're on it, I'm not worried. That reputation isn't built with speeches. It's built with consistency. And consistency is louder than charisma when it comes to leadership. 6. They keep learning when others stop. After the job offer is signed, most people slow down. They get comfortable. The fast risers, they get curious. They keep asking, what else can I understand here? They don't wait for formal training. They find their own learning path, watching, reading, asking smart questions. Not to look good, but to become good. They notice gaps and fill them without being told. They see inefficiencies and quietly fix them. They know more about the role than what's written in the job description, because they go beyond it. These silent learners become the default choice when new challenges arise, not because they were told to be ready, but because they already were. 7. They don't outshine. They uplift. Insecure professionals hoard credit. Confident professionals share it. The ones who move up fast don't try to be the star in every room. They make the whole room smarter. They say things like, it was a team effort, and they mean it. They compliment in public. They correct in private. They make others feel capable. That kind of leadership is magnetic. Managers notice. Colleagues talk. And when a leadership position opens up, people naturally imagine that person in the role because they've already been leading without the title. 8. They self-check before they self-promote. Self-advocacy matters, but timing matters more. Fast risers don't beg for recognition. They prepare for it. They self-audit before they self-promote. They ask, have I really earned this conversation? They gather evidence, track outcomes, and approach their promotion discussions with calm clarity, not entitlement. When they speak about their growth, it's not to inflate ego. It's to align contribution with opportunity. And that difference? It changes everything. They don't demand raises. They build a case so solid it can't be ignored. And when they finally ask, the answer is usually yes. 9. They listen to feedback that hurts. It's easy to nod at praise. It's harder to sit with criticism. But the fastest climbers don't flinch. They listen, even when it stings. Not to defend, to improve. They ask for clarity, not comfort. They turn feedback into fuel. And when they return a few weeks later having integrated that feedback, that's when they become unforgettable. Because most people resist growth when it's uncomfortable. The people who rise lean into it. They don't take it personally. They take it seriously. 10. They invest in energy, not just time. Some workers brag about how late they stayed. Fast risers brag about how focused they were. They don't work longer. They work better. They know their peak hours and protect them. They take real breaks. They shut their phone off when thinking deeply. They don't confuse hustle with impact. Instead of looking constantly available, they aim to be consistently effective. That means sleep, hydration, fitness, and boundaries. These aren't luxuries. They're leverage. Promotions don't go to the most tired. They go to the most capable, and capability depends on energy. 11. They master the micro moments. Big wins are rare. Small moments, they're everywhere. Fast risers know that leadership isn't just about presentations or performance reviews. It's about how you show up daily. Do you say good morning? Do you show up to meetings prepared? Do you remember names? Do you ask questions that make others better? These micro moments add up. They shape how people experience you. And when those moments are positive, calm under pressure, encouraging in chaos, thoughtful during stress, you create a leadership brand, one that speaks before you do. 12. They don't escape accountability. They invite it. When things go wrong, most people run from responsibility. But the people who move up fast do the opposite. They raise their hand. That one's on me. Not to get punished, to get better. Accountability is magnetic. It signals maturity. It builds trust. It allows for honest growth. And in a world full of deflection, a person who owns their outcomes, even the hard ones, stands out like a lighthouse in a storm. 13. They make things simpler, not louder. The most overlooked leadership habit is clarity. Fast risers don't impress others by making things sound complicated. They stand out because they make the complex feel manageable. While others drown in jargon or create more noise, they pause and ask, "What's the real problem here?" Then they translate chaos into steps, ideas into motion, uncertainty into strategy. People don't follow the person who knows the most. They follow the one who makes the path feel clear. And that habit, cutting through the fog, isn't loud. It's surgical. 14. They manage their own emotions before managing others. Promotions often come with people, not just projects, and leading people requires emotional discipline. Those who rise fast don't let stress bleed into their interactions. They don't explode in meetings or freeze under pressure. They pause, breathe, reset. They handle tough news privately, then return to the team with direction, not panic. They model emotional maturity, not because they suppress how they feel, but because they process it wisely. And that calm presence becomes a stabilizing force. In tense moments, others look to them, not for solutions, but for steadiness. 15. They build influence, not control. Power is a fragile thing when you have to enforce it. The fastest growing leaders don't chase authority. They cultivate influence. How? By listening, by helping, by showing up even when there's nothing in it for them. They create social capital. So when they finally need buy-in, they already have it. They don't need to push. People lean in naturally because they've earned trust. Influence is quiet, but when it speaks, people listen. 16. They document everything. You can't improve what you can't track, and you can't ask for growth if you don't have receipts. Silent risers know this. They keep a simple system, a weekly reflection, a list of outcomes, a folder of wins, not to show off, but to stay clear. This habit turns noise into narrative. So when opportunity shows up, they don't scramble. They open their notes and say, "Here's what I've done. Here's how I grew. Here's what I can do next." Data isn't just for reports. It's your compass for momentum. 17. They never stop asking, "Who am I becoming?" Fast promotion is meaningless if it leads to a role that no longer fits your soul. So the most grounded professionals ask this again and again. Is this ladder leaning against the right wall? They grow, but not at the expense of alignment. They check in. They reflect. They choose roles not just for prestige, but for purpose. Every silent habit they build is a vote for the kind of leader they want to be. Not just more powerful, but more whole. 18. They play the long game while showing up. Daily. Most promotions don't happen because someone lobbied hard. They happen because someone showed up with intention, long before anyone noticed. The habits we've covered aren't one-week hacks. They're lifelong levers, and the ones who rise fast? They've internalized the rhythm. Show up, improve, connect, reflect, then repeat, day after day, until it's not just a habit, it's who they are. They know that you don't grow by chasing attention. You grow by building identity. And that identity gets rewarded, not just by promotions, but by becoming someone even you admire. Real stories. The promotion you didn't see coming. Tanya never tried to be the favorite. She just made sure every project she touched was better than when she found it. She stayed late, not because it was required, but because she cared. She didn't speak much in meetings, but when she did, she offered frameworks, not just feelings. Her boss didn't even post the job publicly. She just walked in one day and said, "It's yours if you want it." Malik was overlooked for 2 years, but instead of complaining, he shadowed people in higher roles, took notes, built new workflows that made his team 30% faster, quietly. Then one Friday, his manager left unexpectedly. On Monday, leadership didn't blink. They just said, "Malik's already doing the job anyway." These stories aren't glamorous, they're grounded. And they prove a simple truth. If you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. If you remember nothing else from this entire video, remember this. You are being watched, not for how loud you are, but for how often you follow through. Not for how much you say, but how much you solve. Not for how many hours you sit at your desk, but for how clearly you move things forward. Promotions rarely reward the performers. They reward the builders. And building isn't loud. It's daily. It's subtle. It's boring. Until suddenly, it's seen. So if you want to rise faster, don't start by shouting. Start by showing. Show up when it's quiet. Build habits no one claps for. And soon they'll ask, how did they get so far ahead? And you'll smile, because you'll know. It wasn't luck. It wasn't politics. It was silent habits, repeated, refined, earned,